What is up, Profitable Stylist? Good morning. Here we go this week. We've got with us John, who is regularly co-hosting with us from time to time. Bernard is still out of town. He is doing the American Hair Loss Council this week. So we hope his breakout rooms, if you're at the show this week, definitely check him out in the private room. You're going to learn some good stuff about hair extensions and about hair replacement systems as well, too. I hope everybody that's attending is having fun over there. John, good morning, buddy. Thanks for joining me today.
Hey, Eddie, what's going on? Profitable Stylist. How are you guys today? Yeah, you got me instead of Bernard. I don't have the cool hairdo like Bernard has, but hopefully I can give you guys some information and we can have a little bit of fun today. So here we go. Let's kick this thing off.
The reason why I asked you to come on with me today is because both you and I have worked in very large salons, very named salons in our area. And both you and I have been heads of the department where we have been in charge of training staff. We have been in charge of managing staff. And we have also been in charge of, disciplining, mentoring, hiring and firing, all the way around. And our positions have afforded us the opportunity to work hand in hand directly with the owner of the salons.
Right.
So, and that's today's topic is, does your looks matter when you're getting a job? Or does your skill set matter when you're getting a job? That really is what we're breaking down today. That's what we're talking about.
Okay. So I think first and foremost, at least.
And yes, RJ, I got Carmelina had to tell me what's up. She says I got punched in the face. I didn't think it was that noticeable, but yeah, don't piss off your wife if she's got nails.
I think she hit you with a frying pan. I think that this is a great topic. First off, but I think the first thing that comes to mind for me is you got to dress for the job you want. And when you come in for an interview with someone, it's not so much the looks, it's your overall appearance. I have some, people hired me, but with that being said, I think that you've got to look the part that you want, for the job that you want. And I think that your skill set is more important than anything. I always tell the story. I worked with a gentleman for many, many years. He wore sweatpants every day. It looked like he was. I mean, he wore the stuff that I wear to bed. Only because, when we came up, you looked the part. You had to look the part. And I think that that first impression, like we were taught in school, really is that first impression is the lasting impression. Your first impression with a client is your lasting impression. True? Go ahead. You're going to say something.
What was your school uniform?
Oh my gosh.
Do you remember what your school uniform was?
You want a great story with that? I'll give it to you after. But we wore hospital scrubs, white hospital scrubs. So by the end of my 1,400 hours,
15.
pretty much.
You were 14 back then?
Huh?
You were 1,400 back then? You weren't 1,500 back then?
Was it 14? 15. I'm sorry. You corrected me. At the end of my 1,500 hours, it looked like I could be getting out of a painting van. With all the color.
Sent home for that?
Huh?
You weren't sent home for that?
I would always wear like a sleeveless sweatshirt or something over it because but I replaced my scrubs quite frequently. The lady at the hospital supply store, I knew her very well. Actually, she came in, I cut her hair once. But yeah, that was That
White
was it.
sneakers, white socks, white scrubs, tops and
Yep.
bottoms. And
Yep.
that's how you were graded at the end of the day. You were graded at the beginning of the day and you were graded at the end of the day. And if you showed
Yeah.
up the next day without it bleached out clean, you were, well, we were sent home. I don't know.
Yeah.
You got leniency apparently.
No. You forgot I went to Pivot Point.
That's what I'm talking about.
And what they would do is they would do there would be a teacher standing at the time clock when you punched in the morning, and you would get the up and down, and then there would be a teacher at the time clock when you punched out at the end of the day. I came in once with a long sleeve like thermal shirt underneath because it was cold. It was wintertime, and it was like a medium blue. And she looked at me and she said, "You got to take that off or you're going home." And I went, "Ooh, okay," you know. But funny story about that. I was my mom was the financial aid director for Pivot Point at one point in time, and she was in her office when I completed my 1,500 hours.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So, everybody, they'd make the announcement, and I had to come back in for 1 hour, but they wouldn't let me clock that 1 hour unless I was in uniform.
They were so strict.
They were. So I had underneath it, I had a white t-shirt and I had a pair of white shorts, right? So I plotted this out because, having your mom at school with you was not a good thing. She was constantly lurking to make sure that I was behaving myself. So anyway, I go booking up, her office looked out onto the clinic floor. So I go booking up the stairs and I jump up on her desk because she was always on me about, you're never going to finish, and I've literally ripped the shirt off, my scrub shirt, and I yanked the pants off. And my mother's giving me this death stare. And you got to understand, old Italian woman, right? And she's giving me this, and she's looking across her desk. I turn around and there's this girl and her mom sitting there as I'm standing on my mother's desk dancing. Come to, I think it was about 12 years ago, you and I come off stage at ABS, and this girl comes up to me and she goes, "You probably don't remember me." And when someone says that to me, immediately I'm like, "Oh my God, do I need to apologize for something?" And she goes, "Oh no, I was in your mom's office when you graduated beauty school." Now this is over 30 years ago, right?
That's awesome.
She goes, I've never forgotten that moment. And I'm like, "Oh, I'd like to forget that moment." But yeah, that's a little off topic because we got off topic with the uniforms, but you had to be uniform.
The point of it all is when you're dressing, the whole dress to impress, dress for your job, in essence, you're showing everybody around you, especially to your clients, and this whole channel is about being profitable. You're showing that you are arriving. You have spent the time and the effort to put yourself together, to put your ensemble together, your outfit together, and you are ready to go. You are prepared to do your job, okay?
Right.
So, especially when you're going for an interview, yeah, you better dress to the nines. Now, does that mean you got to come in with a cravat and a whole three-piece suit, or for a woman, do you have to come in with a ballroom dress? Yeah, nah, you don't got to look like a Southern belle, but you should not show up in your sweatpants like you were mentioning earlier either.
Right.
Some people, look, I've hired punk rockers literally coming in with the platform boots and the spikes and the chains and the freaking, I hired a dude with a mohawk. This guy had like a 3.5 foot tall mohawk. And the girls in the salon were saying, there is no way he's going to fit. I'm saying, are you kidding me? Do you understand how much work it takes to get a 3.5 foot tall mohawk? Do you understand how much work that takes every day to get that sucker to stand up? This is precisely the person we want to be styling other people's hair, and because that is going to, the entire conversation is going to be nothing but, you need this product, you need this, you need that, you need to spend this time. That is you, that this kid made a mint. He made a mint. Okay.
Right.
I had a girl who would literally put on a full face every single day. She thought she was Harley Quinn. She put on a full face every single day. And everyone's like, dude, she looks like a clown. I'm like, you know what? That's her thing. She puts herself together very well. I'm hiring her. If she's going to dedicate that much effort and time to putting herself together, she's paying attention to detail. She cares about details. So it shows me that you care enough about how you look, you are going to care enough how everybody else looks. At that point, I can hone your skill set. I just need you to have a bit of talent. If you have 1% talent, I can create 100% out of that. Yep. But if you have absolutely zero talent, that one's going to be a little bit rough. But either way, you could have 100% talent. But how is that going to work? Yeah, if you're dressed sloppily, if you're dressed lazily, by default, you're just not going to care.
Right.
It's like when people work from home. Some people are like, oh, I just roll out of bed and I just start working. It's like, yeah, but that shows in your performance review. You know, you work from home. I know people who work from home. They literally get out of bed, they get in the shower, they get dressed as if they're leaving the house. You know, and PJs is not putting on your fancy PJs, is still putting on PJs. You know?
Right. I like, you know, along those lines, I had, and actually she works down the hall from me now, you know, and I can mention her because she's still a really good friend, Lindsay. When Lindsay was 18 years
Lindsay's
old.
Awesome. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, Lindsay, straight out of beauty school, had dreadlocks. She came in, she was dressed well. Okay. She wasn't, you know, she's not the, you know, mini skirt kind of girl. Okay. But she was dressed well. But she had these dreads. She had a couple of face piercings. But the vibe that she gave off, I knew that this was something we could work with. And the salon manager at the time, I hired her as a colorist. The salon manager at the time came to me and said, "Who's this girl? What are you doing? She doesn't fit it. She's not going to fit into our mold." I go, "No, she's totally going to fit into our mold." And she had a decent skill set for after beauty school, right? But she really, you know, she needed fine tuning, and she worked her tail off. And now what? We're at like 18 years later. The kid's doing $3,500 a day in business. Has, you know, the clientele to choke a horse, and still she doesn't come in dressed down. She comes in dressed, let's call it business casual, for lack of a better term. And her clients it's a conga line in and out of her chair with people. And I'm just using Lindsay as an example. I firmly believe in that you have to dress for the job that you want. And if you can take your ego, put it in your back pocket, and listen to someone like you, someone like Bernard, someone like me, who has you know, done it the hard way. A lot of it's the hard way. You can actually build yourself a really profitable career. And also along those lines, you know, her and I used to butt heads when I was training her about, and I'm just using her as an example, Lindsay, when you watch this, I'm not being mean. But her and I used to go round and round about her retail skills. Retail was a big part of what I don't care what anybody says, it is a big part of what we do. And she's to the point now where she retails, and her retail covers her rent every month. So everything she's doing behind the chair, after, you know, after all the expenses, Everything else is gravy, and that's huge. And she always says to me, she goes, I'm so happy that I listened to you about retail. I'm like, it's free money. I know it's not free money, but in that aspect, it is free money.
In a way it is. So now take it from the other side of the perspective. As you leave the salon and you go somewhere else, you go to a restaurant, you go to a store, you go, you just go out and about. You're living your life, right? I'll tell you, dude, I'm judgmental. If I see somebody come up to me and trying to help me, if they don't look put together, my first impression is a negative impression. And I try to actively give everybody a chance. I try not to judge a book by its cover. I really do try not to. But there is a certain part of me that also says is doing it. Like I'm in this conflict. I'm in this conflict in my mind. Yeah.
Right.
How do you run into that yourself, and how do you deal with it?
It depends on the situation, but I will tell you, if it's someone that comes up to me to help me and they don't look the part, there's always that part in the back of my brain that goes, maybe this isn't a person that I should be talking to right now. Especially, I mean, you go to your doctor, okay? What do you expect your doctor to look like? Right? Lab coat.
Or Frankenstein, Dr. Frankenstein. Wow. He better be a nerd, or she better be a nerd with Coca-Cola glasses, disheveled hair and a stethoscope, or however you say it.
Right.
A mad scientist looking thing, it better not be. I better not see a swimsuit model be my doctor.
Right.
I'm going to think
so
twice.
With that being said, I always you got to. Your internet is bad, bro. I'm dying here.
Are you back? Yeah. So Eddie, until you make it back to us,
there we go. Yeah, sorry, guys. Is that my internet or your internet?
No, man. You've been freezing up all morning. Are you back now? All right. Well, while you're sorting yourself out over there, the whole thing of when you approach somebody now, if you're the client, just think about that. If you're the client and you walk into the salon and you're going to be paired up with a stylist, that client is looking, that client is judging, that client wants, because if the client doesn't feel good about themselves and they're hoping that by coming to the salon, they're going to get some kind of a style that's going to make them look good and feel good about themselves, automatically they want to be paired up with somebody who looks better than them to help them, so for them to be inspired to know that you as the stylist, you have the ability to make them look good too, to give them some kind of, what's the word, like advice, because if you don't know how to dress, how are you going to tell your client how to dress? If you're not positive, how are you going to tell your client how to be positive? If your hair is not styled, blow dried, and looking with volume and fullness, how are you going to tell your client to get volume and fullness? Your client needs you to look the part for your client to feel confident that when she's sitting in your chair, before she fully understands your skill set, she needs to understand, or he needs to understand, that you look the part, that you kind of know, you look like you know what you're doing, before they can give you the chance to have the experience to know what you're doing. And that's the reason why we're explaining about, when we go out places and we get helped by people, whether it's a server at a restaurant or the doctor's office or to a store or something. Yeah, The person who, the employee, I want the employee to kind of look like the employee looks like they know what they're doing, not just sounds like they know what they're doing. So to a certain degree, you need to look the part to get the part.
Right.
Then you need the skills to keep the job, to keep the part going,
Right.
And that's where the whole argument behind fake it till you make it falls apart. Because
Oh,
it doesn't
great.
matter how much you look the part. If you cannot do the job, you are SOL. You're up a creek without the paddle.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. I think I told you this story not that long ago. The first salon that I worked in, I went through beauty school with a guy that was a little bit older than me, and we decided we were going to work together in the salon, right? And they did a whole group of new hires. And we would always have classes on Monday nights, and we were there till 10 or 11 o'clock at night. And as the group whittled down, there was 3 of us left. And it was me, this guy that I went through beauty school with, he was a little bit older, and then this young lady. And she looked the part. She looked the part. But she could not, as much as she tried, she could not cut a straight line. She, she could blow dry though. She could blow dry fantastic. But her colors, color did not make any sense to her whatsoever. But because the salon owner, and I'm not going to mention any names, the salon owner liked the way she looked, she got pushed ahead of the other 2 of us, and that's fine. That's great. Whatever. I was not. I don't fall into that trap of being jealous of other people and stuff like that. I used to watch her blow dry because my blow drying skills were so lacking. It was unbelievable. At one point I didn't know which end of a round brush to really use. but it was because of her look. And women, I mean, she was a pretty young lady, and women used to stop and be like, oh, I want to look like her, and that got her ahead for a little while. But then the scales evened up on her because she couldn't produce behind the chair. And that ended up being her downfall. And because, there's also ego in that too, where it was very ego driven. I got my, she used to say all the time, I got my chair first, and okay, great, good for you. The long and the short of it is you've got to look the part, but you've also got to play the part. And fake it till you make it does not work. It may work sometimes, guys. Yes, it may work sometimes. But faking it till you make it means, to me, go find somebody that knows what's up and ask them, for their help, or what do I do in this situation, stuff like that. That's one thing, because that's how you learn. But just trying to BS your way through a service, there's no way. You may get away with it every now and then, but eventually it comes back to bite you right in the keister, right?
Every time, 10 out of 10, every time. Fake it till you make it only works as long as everything is going smoothly. The second something goes off course, the second a mistake is made, everything falls apart. Because you do not have the skill set to correct when the problem happens or when crazy happens.
Yeah.
You don't have the skill set to be able to handle the situation accordingly, and that's why skills matter. That's why the skill set really is important. That's why it really, really matters. So now that we've talked about both sides of this, how do you develop each one?
That's a really good question. Wow.
Right? Because it matters when you're going to get a job, when you're going to get hired. Some people will hire you outright because you look the part so well and you have the personality to be able to speak well enough. Okay, fine. You look good, you sound good, you're hired, no problem. Some people they may not, even though you put yourself together, you may not be the model thing of the industry. So, but the person you're interviewing with has enough good sense to look beyond that and say there might be something there that we could work with. I personally never cared how tall, how short, how skinny, how fat, how, old, young, what color. I never cared. I didn't. I only cared, could you do the job? Could you put yourself could you put yourself together enough to make yourself look like you tried? Can you do the job? That's what I hired based off of. Okay. The other department managers or the department heads, whatever we were called, would hire solely based on looks. And then sometimes they would send people over, we would switch departments with the hires because, okay, I hired you because I felt like you had a talent for something. I was hoping you would fit into my color department, but chemistry is not your thing. I don't want to fire you. I hired you for a reason. I saw something in you. Maybe your aptitude is better suited to cutting or styling or nails or spa, something. I don't know. Let's send you to a different department and see how you handle it. That was my take on things. Because other departments would hire based only on looks, the cattiness would occur, and then they wanted to keep the person because they look good. Then they'd send them to the color department. I'm like, you're not going to make it, man. You're just not going to make it. Point is, have you ever given anybody advice to how they should look into dressing themselves?
100%.
So what is some of the advice you've given people?
100%. We had a really, another story. We had a really talented young lady. Talented. I mean, this girl had skills. But she would come in dressed like she was going to the club.
That's a look.
Yeah, but when you're how do I say this? When you have clients coming in, and guys, and please, I'm not a sexist by any stretch of the imagination, but women.
I totally setting you up. I knew exactly what you're talking about.
You totally. And I took a good example.
Though, it matters. It matters.
But when you have clients coming in and that person is standing there where basically you can see what she had for breakfast. They're judgmental. Clients are judgmental, just like you were talking about a couple of minutes ago about walking into a store or a place and watching the look on the client's face. That's also the image of your business too. So, and her and I had a talk, and I said, hey, look, I got no problem with the way, what you want to dress, however you want to dress, that's fine. But maybe tone it down a little bit, and it was a hard conversation for me to have with someone, but we had a certain type of clientele coming into the salon, and how do there's a bunch of different ways to look at this, and I want to make sure I do it correctly so I don't sound like a caveman. But basically, no one wants to see the bottom of your butt cheeks. Let's just be honest. Okay.
If your client, it's not about what you like. It's about what your clients like. Business is always going to correct itself.
Exactly.
That may be your style. And I personally am all for it. I don't care. But if it's costing business, you got to reevaluate your situation. Well, do you only want to make 40 grand a year, 20, 30, 40 grand a year when you potentially have the ability to make 100 grand a year? Exactly. And the only difference is a 2-inch longer skirt? No, don't be dumb. Go get a longer skirt. Placate the clientele in the business. Make your money. Joke's on them. Because now you can go buy 5 more rubber band skirts for the weekend and go at it and have fun. I'm all for it. But do it. Be smart about it, okay? This whole I'm a rebel, I'm a this, I'm a that, nobody has to accept a damn thing from you. You don't get to dictate. Business will dictate everything. Well, I was just talking to RJ a week ago about somebody thought about price gouging. And it's like, no, there is no such a thing. There's absolutely no such a thing in our industry because there is enough hairdressers out there for everybody to choose to go to somewhere. Okay. And that's the simple truth of it. The business will, if the client likes what they're getting from you and they're happy with the experience, which I talk about all the time on here, on this channel, they're going to stay and they're going to pay. So be smart, play the game and win. Totally freaking win. All right. Now with the skill set, that's how you're going to win. Because looking the part, dressing up, dressing down, whatever it is to placate the audience, that part is easy. You get an average of what your clientele is. If your clientele is 50 years old and older, then I don't know. Are they 50-year-olds who got, like I have my 50, 60-year-olds have purple hair. They're freaking hilarious. And they wear ugly sweater, like ugly Christmas sweater in July because they don't care. They just want to piss people off. So I have a level of flexibility on certain days when I know they're coming in. I try to group them together on certain days. And then I have my college girls that come in. So I try to group them together on certain days and I dress differently for those days. Okay. Now the skill set. My rule is you have to do a service upon a mannequin head every single day. Minimum one service every single day. For the sole reason is to get your hands moving. Just to get your hands moving. Okay. Now, what does that mean? Well, when you wake up in the morning, do you just roll out of bed and you just start running? You roll out of bed and you got to stretch and you got to crack and you got to right. You got to rock a little bit. You got to loosen up your body. You get your body moving, right? It's the same thing. Especially in the beginning, if you're first hired and you're in the salon and you've got gaps in your day because you're a new hire, you don't have a full book yet. Get the mannequin head and don't go hide in the back room. Talk it out with the owner. Make sure they're on board with this for your sake, okay? Go to your station, move the chair over, pop up the mannequin stand, put the mannequin right there, and start going to town on that mannequin. And don't treat it like a mannequin. Treat it like a client and really go to town doing that hair. Because mannequins suck. And if you can make a mannequin hair look halfway decent, wow, are you going to make anybody else look good, right? And everybody else sitting around you, whether they are your client or not, they are in the salon. Everybody knows somebody, and there is somebody for somebody. Somebody may not like me, but because they know I work next to you, they're going to come check you out. And vice versa. You might be overbooked one day and you've got overflow, but somebody really needs to get in. You may recommend them over to me for me to take the overflow. Now I get the bonus. It works out. If you can get over to a window, whether there's foot traffic or not, there's cars driving by.
Yep.
And that's all you need. They don't need to see what you're doing. They just need to see that you are doing. And the curiosity will play itself out. People will show up for curiosity. And that is all that matters. So get a mannequin head and work on it. If you got downtime, sweep. Go get other clients coffee. Go make rounds. What is that? The maitre d', the MC, the hostess?
There's a bunch of different terms for it. But what I used to do with our young ones, our new ones, especially when they were training, I always had them in my color room. There was two of us that worked in that room, and then we had two empty stations that people would come in and out of. I would always take the end station, push the chair all the way in, and have whoever we were training work right there on a mannequin. A, because I wanted to be able to see what they were doing. B, I wanted the clients to see that this person is learning and that they were being trained by all of us. It wasn't just me. It was all of us would help in the color department. And it instilled, for the ones that stayed all the way through, it instilled a sense of confidence in the client. If, say, they couldn't get in with me and they booked a single process with whoever the trainee was, once they get on the floor, they knew that they were trained and they had a sense that they felt comfortable with them. And yeah, it wasn't like back when we first started, you know. I mean, when we were there open to close, you know, you were there, you know,
that was true mentorship.
Yeah. Where it was, and the woman that trained me, I mean, I was in her hip pocket all day long, and she was kicking me in the shins, and you know, but I was right there. True mentorship, and that's really, I think, that something that's very important, especially if you're a young stylist. Find a mentor. Really find a mentor. Find someone that's going to instill their knowledge in you, and that you can build on your foundation. Because there's only so much you learn when you're in beauty school. And I don't even know. I mean, I haven't, you know, it's been, you and I have ventured into beauty schools here and there to see what's going on. But I think that, you know, you're just getting your foundation when you go to school. They're teaching you, you're learning the basics, because there's so much to learn. And in a 9-month period, how much can you actually absorb? Usually just enough to pass the state board test. And then is when you build the house on top of that foundation. And that's where you got to get in with someone or somewhere where they're gonna give you education. Mm-hmm. You know, and it's a different ball game now, though, really, because I still remember, and you and I talk about back in the day, but you know, we were making what, waitress wage, which was like $2.77 an hour or $3 an hour.
Dude, at least you got wage. I didn't get wage in the beginning.
That's because you worked for family.
But no, even when I was mentoring on the East Coast, they fed me. You know, they fed me. They let me stay inside, and they let me do shampoos, so I could make $1.50 to $1 from a shampoo. You know,
maybe $1. I still remember getting the handful of change.
Seriously, those were the days.
But that meant I got to put gas in my car so I could make it back to work the following day. Yeah, and where it would be a wrestle. You know, you'd wrestle somebody to shampoo
for a shampoo.
You know, and then you were really living large because you knew you were going to get a bigger tip if you were processing a perm for a stylist. But you better rinse it and neutralize that perm perfect, or else you were getting nothing.
You just reminded me of something. As a new hire, how long are you first hired for before you know you're truly hired? So this is a little insider thing that a lot of new hires don't think about. Because I've had a lot of people come and say, oh, I got the job. And everybody's doing a celebration. They're buying new outfits. They're buying new clothes. They're buying new tools. They're buying new everything. They're putting out big bucks. Are you really hired when you're hired? I know that's like one of those oxymorons or whatever, like a jumbo shrimp.
Let me give it back to you the other way, though. How long do you really realize that this is the place that you want to be?
About 2 weeks, 2 to 4 weeks. Probably like within the first month. If you haven't figured it out, if you haven't gotten a good feeling within the first month, I would say, well, me personally, I analyze everything. So to me, 2 weeks.
Right.
But I realize that I overanalyze everything and I'm up all night. I don't sleep much. So I have more time to do. I could do a month's work in 2 weeks. So I'll say a month.
Yeah. That was usually the make or break point for a lot of the people that we were training in some of the salons I've been in. It was the 1 month mark where you really, if they were gonna be part of the culture or not. Because it's a two-way. That's a two-way street. It's a two-way street. We may like you. I had a couple of young stylists that I really liked. I thought were going to be, and they've turned out to be great stylists. But where they came to me and said, "Yeah, this isn't the place for me," and I went, how do you argue that?
Hey,
good
on you that you figured it out.
Yeah, I wish you good luck. But the fact that you had the guts to sit down and talk with me and tell me this tells me a lot about your personality, your work ethic, whatever. And it wasn't just a no call, no show. Yeah, I'm never coming back. I mean, I've dealt with that too. But usually for us, it was usually about by a month we knew, and by 60 days we knew if we were going to keep them or not. Because there were some people that were on the fence, where all of a sudden the light bulb went on above their head, and it was like, and you were like, oh wow, maybe I was a little bit wrong. But there are other ones that made it through and then just turned into glaring nightmares. They could all of a sudden their real personalities. See, first 2 weeks that people are on their best behavior, right? It's kind of like dating someone. First couple of dates,
it's a relationship. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, first couple of dates, you're nice, Eddie. You hold the door and stuff like that. After the 2-week mark, then you become psycho Eddie.
And I get punched in the head. Yeah, I know.
Whatever that is, you deserved it. I know you deserved it. But I think just to get back to our initial point is really to get your foot in the door, you have to look the part, and then you've got to be able to back it up. And my question to you is then, and I'm putting it back on you, is okay, you're there, you got in the door. Now what do you do to sharpen your skills? Basically, and we're talking about just young stylists, okay? Basically, you're a knife that hasn't been sharpened yet. You've just been forged into a blade, okay? We'll just use that as an example. How do you then put an edge on that blade? How do you go about that?
There's a lot of new hires that come in and they're like, I did all this work. I took all this advice. I dressed for the part. I put myself together. I show up every single day, and all I do is sweep. All I do is shampoo. All I do is answer phones. They're not teaching me anything. It goes both. There is a certain thing to it. Getting training once a week, that's your scheduled time to be trained, okay? It's that relationship that you were talking about. And I'm not saying every salon, some salons take advantage of new hires, some salons they don't. Some salons have it set up properly to have a training program. Some salons they don't. They're just trying to figure it out. And that's where you got to figure out, is this the right place for you or not? And you also have to understand, as a new hire, you brought that up perfectly. Don't ghost. Don't do quiet quitting. Don't listen to the freaking news and social media and be like, oh, this is the trend. This is how it's done. Human nature is human nature at its core. This industry, for as large as it is, and this entire planet, for as big as it is very tiny. And that circle, that 6 degrees of separation, or 7, or whatever the number is, right? People talk. And everybody knows everybody in some freaking way, shape, or form. You'd be surprised. Like you said earlier in your story, you're dancing on your mama's desk 30 years ago. We're doing one of our shows. We come off stage, and there you go. She grew up, but she remembers you in your shorts 30 years ago. Like that. You never know. You never know. Tell somebody, talk, use your words. Do it the right way. Absorb everything you can. Understand that when you're first hired, for that first month, for that first week or two, whatever it is, Get your footing. To a certain degree, it is a relationship. You want to be treated the way you want to. You also want to treat the person that you just ended up with the way you want to treat them. It's two ways, okay? And again, I'm saying this is a business relationship. I'm not saying this is a personal relationship, but it still is a marriage. It still is a relationship to a certain degree.
Right.
Let the owner know that you are hungry. You are doing your job. You're performing the duties assigned. You are sweeping and shampooing and answering phones or whatever menial tasks they're assigning you, but you are hungry and you want more. And that's really what it's about. Go shadow on your downtime. Go shadow. The owner, my mentor, never touched her station. Every clip she reached for, I grabbed it. Every comb she wanted out of the barber side, I cleaned, I pulled it out. Every brush, every tool, every whatever, I handed it to her. She never put it back down on the countertop. I handed it to her. And the reason was I was shadowing so closely that I was learning, oh, she's doing this. That's why she's grabbing this. And it just became second nature to me when it was my time for actual class time. It just became second nature to grab the actual tool or to grab the right clip or to grab the right comb or the right brush or the right whatever. That is a form of learning. And it showed her through my actions that I was hungry for knowledge. Within a couple of months, I wasn't sweeping as often. I was doing more shampoos because she was relying on me. And now I started finishing blow dries and styles. Yep. I started finishing color pull throughs. I wasn't answering the phone so much because I was busy working on clients. The other new stylists who weren't as aggressive, as hungry, as showing through action that they wanted to be treated like a proper stylist because I just got hired for a stylist job, not an assistant job. They were treated more like assistants.
Right.
You know, so you have to show the owner is hiring you. They're taking a chance on you. You have to prove to them. They see something in you. You have to prove to them that whatever it is they saw in you, they're taking a chance on. You have to show them that's what it's about. And you also have to dictate to them that this is how you want to be treated at this level as well, too. That's the best advice I can tell you.
Yeah, I agree 100% with everything you said. From being on both sides of the coin, an investment is being made in you. It's an investment. And if you work in a salon, I guarantee you, I'm just going to put a number at 80% of the stylists that work in that salon are more than happy to share knowledge with you. There are those that are like, get away from me, whatever. And they're not worth even wasting any more words on. The ones that want to share with you. And if you show some gratitude, there's that word again. You and I are, if you show some gratitude to them, they'll share more with you. And really you get to, like we were talking about, build that house on that foundation. My famous motto to everybody I trained was always, the dumbest question is the one you don't ask. Now, sometimes I always said, my whole thing is don't ask me in front of the client. When we're in the back room, make a mental note, ask me and I'll explain it out to you. Because a lot of clients are paying for your time, my time, RJ's time, not Bernard's time. Bernard's time is free. But they're paying for your time, and it's not, now some of my clients love the fact of, well, go ahead, tell her what you're doing.
You know your clients. Yeah.
You know your clients.
The stylist that you're working with knows their clientele.
Exactly.
It's appropriate in front of some. It's inappropriate in front of some others.
Right, but you don't want to put them on that, put the client on that spot. So always make it a mental note. I mean, me personally, I always carry I used to carry this little like notebook, and I would write questions down in the notebook, being the ADD child that I am. And then I would go back later and go, hey, you were doing this. And just for a brief explanation, you know. And the woman that trained me, I mean, you're lucky. I wasn't allowed to touch a head of hair until I could take a Denman brush and create the same look with a Denman brush. Okay. The round brush, she leaves to laugh. She goes, yeah, you'll get to round brushes.
Yeah.
And she hands me this Denman brush. She goes, this is your best friend. You know, it's just how it was that you know, back then. And even now though, but you can all, yeah, 100%. So, I guess just to put everything all in a nutshell for this week, is look the part, build your arsenal, build your skill arsenal, and how cool is it that we work in an industry where, you know, the sky's the limit.
The sky is the limit.
There is no ceiling. There is no ceiling. It's all about how hard you want to work or how hard you don't want to work. And once you build your clientele, and once you have a clientele, it is the most satisfying thing in the world. There are those of your clientele that drive you crazy, but hey, I'm sure all of us drive someone crazy in our life, you know. So
how it goes. That's the fun of life. It's the fun of what we do.
It is. It really is. So I guess thank you to you. Thank you to RJ. And no thanks to Bernard for letting me come on and run my mouth this week. I greatly appreciate it. Always happy to come on Two Guys Chat. You can check. Can we do a shameless plug? Do we get to do a shameless plug? Or
I have no idea what you're talking about right now. What's your shameless plug? What are you talking about?
You can check. You can check me and Eddie out, and we have guests on another YouTube channel too from time to time. It's called.
Oh, that's right. You have your own podcast, Stylists from the Break Room. SFTB
Stylists from the Back Room, SFTB. It's on HTV Beauty. You can check that out too. It's a nice 1-2 punch. Two Guys Chat, and then SFTB. And I thank you guys, and we'll see you next week.
You got it. Thanks again, as always, for watching. Leave us your comments, and we'll go from there. Thanks.